Hi, this is Andrew, and welcome to another Keyforge deck reveal / review. I thought I'd do something different and a little fun today and walk you through the 3 decks that I opened at the Sealed Vault Tour at Gen Con Indy in Indianapolis, Indiana. It's been a little while since then. It's been a couple weeks. I've still been, catching up in my brain from all that went on there. Spoiler alert, I'll let you know that I picked a deck and I went 4-2 on day 1, which is not quite enough to get into day 2. So that was a slight disappointment, but I had a lot of fun. I was pretty proud of doing 4-2. Before I tell you which deck I picked, and I'll say really quick, once I start showing these, obviously they're registered now. You could go look them up and it would be very obvious which one I took. But, if you want to guess, then don't do that yet. What I'll do is I'll walk you through each of these 3 decks and then put up a poll, and would love to see, if you're watching, which deck you would have picked. So if you stick around and watch through all 3 decks, then you can vote. Which one would you have picked, and see if we came to the same conclusion or not. So I also, just to prevent myself from giving anything away, I threw the deck names into randomizer and randomized the order in which I'm going to reveal them. So that's what I'm going with, and I'll talk about what I see in each deck and the strengths and weaknesses. Normally when I do a full deck review, it ends up taking a little over 10 minutes per, and I want to get through this faster, so I'll be quicker about it, or I'll try to anyway. So, couple things before we get started. There was something weird that happened with how the decks were handed out at the beginning of the Vault Tour, and I was bummed about it and said so at first, but it wasn't terrible, and we all went along with it. But basically, they didn't have time to separate all the decks into bags, and as a result of that, they had the players do it. So when we got there in the morning, we were handed 3, sealed decks, and we had to open those 3 decks, write their names on a slip of paper, put our name on, I had to put my name on that slip of paper then, and then put the 3 decks and the slip of paper into a plastic bag. The decks were still wrapped in their packaging, they just weren't any longer in the cardboard box. And there were a few things I didn't like about this. One is, if you opened a really awesome deck that you're like, hey, this has aftermarket value, there wasn't a lot of policing going on. You could have done something terrible. I won't go into detail, but people could have gotten away with things. I don't think anybody did. These were all nice people, but I just don't like leaving room for that. And the other thing that was kind of a bummer about it, now the reason they did it this way is because later on that bag would get randomly assigned to somebody else. That is important because it removes the incentive for you to bring a good sealed deck and slip it in, but and pretend that you opened it at the event when you actually opened 100 decks before you came and picked the best one. But it's still, there was a little possibility of there being some sadness. If you open something awesome, then and you don't get it, and that could be bad. So I just didn't read the lists. My brother-in-law's friend was going through his decks, and he had this one that had a Maverick Fagin with, of course, 2 Maverick Urchins and 2 Ronnie Wrist Clocks, and it also had a Maverick Doc Bookton, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then I was like, dude, you actually don't keep that, you have to put it in the bag. And he was super bummed. Now that was Devin, and he ended up going on to win the Sealed Vault Tour, so I think he was pretty happy in the end, but he was initially very bummed to not get to keep that deck. And the last little bit that was kind of annoying, of course, because they have 300-400 people and 3 decks per person, they have many displays of decks. What I would have wanted to do is pick 1 deck each from 3 different displays, because there's some theories around decks within the same display sharing certain characteristics, so I would have rather get from 3 different displays. I did that for the person that I made the bag for, but of course I don't know whether the person who made the bag for me did that, so it's not shocking that I got 3 decks with logos. Of course that could just happen anyway, but anyway, I only have, there are 2 houses that just aren't even represented here. So, make of that what you want. That's definitely possible, statistically, but it's interesting. Anyway, okay, so without further ado, let's start digging into the decks. So the first one we're going to look at is Buster Yusuf. Buster Yosef, Arena Artist. And this one is Brobnar, Dees, and Logos. And looking at the deck list initially, I mean, the things that stand out, obviously we look at the rares, and I see that there's a Time Traveler. That's pretty cool. And Igor, so it's going to be good cycling. Has Bouncing Death Quirk and Standardized Testing, which is going to be decent. It's going to help with board control. Maybe some extra draw with Fila. Oops, sorry, that's not focusing super well. So we have the Time Traveler, Crazy Killing Machine, a little more board control. Interdimensional Draft is going to give us some Amber control, maybe. I mean, the problem is, if our opponent bursts up really high, we can get the extra Amber, but they're still going to forge a key. There's no Binate Rupture in here. Fila might get us some extra draw, but it's not amazing. Bouncing Death Quirk, board control, Titan Librarian gives us some Archive ability, hopefully. Standardized Testing, more board control. A little more Archive with lab work. Good deck cycle with Igor. And Archimedes, you know, with Igor and Time Traveler, like, that's some decent stuff. Good play abilities there. The Yerks I'm happy about. I have a Yerk and an old Yerk. More deck cycle. Life Ward gives us a little bit of board control. Bloodshard Imp, also board control, although these get killed pretty quick. 2 Streaks, that could be decent deck control against the opponent, although I just never treat these as like really reliable. Gub, Dust Imp, Banish, little board control there. 2 Amber Imps, again, kind of soft board control. I don't really consider this super reliable. Iron Obelisk could be a blessing or a curse, right? Or no, I guess it's just a blessing. It can burst up opponent's key cost. If we have a bunch of Brobnar creatures, and we do have some, then it could be okay. We only have 5 Brobnar creatures, 6, I guess. So that's, maybe 5. And not big Brobnar creatures. We have more Stun here. Groke, Ganger Chieftain, Foozle, First Blood, I don't love. Coward's End, I'm not excited about. Stun and 1-2 Punch, that could be okay. So there's some board control, really not much Amber control in here. And let's see, I guess on Amber Pips, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm thinking, we're just not going to generate that much Amber here. We don't have strong Amber control. We have okay board control, but not amazing. We have deck cycling ability, and that's going to help us. And that was Buster Yosef, Arena Artist. All right, on to. So I wouldn't be terrible. I wouldn't be like feel terrible about running that. I'm hoping for something better at this point. We have Plasterbat, Spawn of Round Lobe, and this one is Sanctum, Dees, Logos. Another Logos and Dees here. We just have Sanctum instead of Brobnar. And let's see here. So we have Sanctum Guardian, Taunt, it has Taunt. I mean, okay. Harder They Come, Purge a big creature. Maybe we get Amber Gen with Derek, but it requires board control. Potion maybe gives us some board control. Take Hostages gives us some Amber control. Shield of Justice, some board control. Chow for Taunt, Bordan for more Amber control, Abond for armor, Lion. But there's decent stuff. Nothing flashy. Maybe we can establish a strong board presence and keep it. In Logos, we have Sloppy Lab Work. That's good for cycling. Fila for drawing, maybe. Backup copy. And, we could drop the Lion next to Fila even after she has somebody else next to her. That's pretty good. Chow, too. So there's some synergy there. 3 ZYX Researchers. That's really interesting. That's a lot of Archive. And so if we have power cards, that can potentially really help. We have a Wild Wormhole. Love that. Sutterkin. Not a lot of Logos creatures. Well, I guess we have a few. We have quite a few. Yeah, that's a lot of Logos creatures, I guess. Sutterkin could do work. Maybe we get him next to a Guardian, I would hope. That'd really be the condition for keeping him. 2 pokes, and I'm not excited about those. 2 Igors, I love it. I love Igor. So we have good deck cycle here, good archive stuff, recur some stuff, and then in Dees we have Pit Lord that gives us Amber and Taunt, and could be okay with the Hecatomb. We can get rid of the Pit Lord if we really want. I mean, Pit Lord Hecatomb is 4 Amber, right? That's pretty good. Soul Keeper is an interesting one, gives us some board control. The Blood Shard Imps here. Tesmals, that could be really interesting. Not finished with you. Misery Exploit could gain us some Amber. Lash could potentially give us some Amber control. Banish and Exhume could be good for something or other. So again, here, no steal. Some Amber control, not a ton. Some board control, not a ton. Even probably, I think, less than the last deck. But definitely more archive here, probably a little more deck manipulation in here than was in the last one, and more like fighting based board control, but it depends on us having the Sanctum creatures on the board to begin with. Alright, and last one is Digimoth Guildhall Crook, which is Sanctum, Shadows, and Logos. And when I see this, I'm thinking, oh, I have a deck with Shadows. That's good. I have another Logos here. Sanctum, like the last one. That's interesting. And one of the first things we see here is we have a Too Much to Protect. That's encouraging. That's a great card. Very strong. I like it. I see Hidden Stash that gives us a little archive. We have the Logos too, so maybe we have even more archive. Brand. Okay. Well, Brand's interesting. Right, it gives the opponent 1, but if Bren dies, then we get 3. So I'm looking for, okay, how are there ways I can kill the Bren? Are there ways I can make sure that Bren gets killed and gets that steal popped off? 3 Yancey Gangs. If we can keep those on the board, that's some decent steal there. We have decent Amber control there. 2 Sucker Punches. That's good for getting rid of the small stuff. Nerve Blast, steal, and Too Much to Protect, Nerve Blast. If you can pull that off, that's a fantastic. They can be at any amount of Amber, and you got them down to 5. Life for Life, that can take care of the Brend. Nerve Blast can also take care of the Brend if it already has the damage. We have Lamendra, Bad Penny. The Lamendra, interesting. Maybe next to the Yancey Gang could do good work. And the Bad Penny is a discard in here. There's just nothing to do with the Bad Penny, except maybe a Life for a Life. Alright. Next up, we're in Sanctum, and we have Vimos Lightbringer. That's interesting. Destroy each elusive creature. Anahita, that's interesting. That's some potentially more Amber control, although we haven't seen any artifacts yet. So let's mark that as skeptical. Spirit's Way, okay, destroy each creature with power 3 or higher. Okay, that's another way, actually, to deal with Brend. Brend is power 3, so Spirit's Way will kill it. Okay, that's interesting. We have Potion of Invulnerability, okay, Equalize, good if we're capturing. We have Take Hostages, and we have Merrick, so maybe we get some capture. Barrister Joya stops Reaping. That can be pretty strong. That's good. Soft board control and Amber control. Healing Blast with Merrick is interesting because it means we can potentially get some damage on him and heal him back up. Maybe if we get enough damage, it'd be a little risky, but we could get that Amber Burst from it. That'd be pretty cool. Ooh, and 2 Hallowed Shields. So at this point, we have 2 Hallowed Shields and the potion to maybe do something with Anahita. That could be interesting. And then a Golden Aura, which again can heal the Merrick. So potential interesting stuff there. Then we are in Logos. We have the Curator, interesting friendly artifacts interplay ready. That could help us with Sigil. Strange Gizmo, Curator doesn't help us with that, but that's a Strange Gizmo Anahita is actually a very interesting potential combo. You can hand it over to your opponent, and then it won't go off until they forge. Rocket Boots, 2 copies of Rocket Boots, that's interesting. What will we put it on? Maybe the Brend, so they want to kill it. Maybe Yancey Gang, it can reap and steal. Lamindra, who cares? Anahita, reap twice. That's amazing. If you have the artifacts out, Barrister Joya, maybe. Reap fight, because it's big. Same with Merrick. Okay, we'll keep that in mind for other creatures. We have a Fila, that's interesting, but Rocket Boots doesn't really matter there. We have an interdimensional graft, which is sort of like another too much to protect, just slower. Backup copy could be interesting for some things, like maybe get Merrick or Barrister Joy back. I wouldn't put it on the Brend, because then if the opponent kills the Brend, they can choose to put it back on top of the deck before the steal hits. So I would only put it on the Brend if I'm going to kill the Brend this turn, which could happen with the standardized testing. There's also a Wild Wormhole here. That's good. 2 copies of Poke and a Hexion. So what are we missing here? Well, we don't have great board control. Like, we have the standardized testing, but that and fighting, when we don't have big creatures really to fight with, are really our only forms of board control. We have a few big creatures, but not a lot. The Spirit's Way can help. That can help, for sure. We have decent Amber control, and we have control for strong creatures, so maybe it's okay. It's hard, it's hard to pass up the house that has shadows in it, and we have a little control in Sanctum too, although none in Logos. Some artifact, not as much cycling here as we had in the other 2 deck cycling. So maybe that's counts against this. So let me know what you think. I'll make sure a poll pops up here if you're on my video on Facebook. Let me know which of these 3 decks you would pick. Buster, which is Logos, Dees, Brobnar, and has the Time Traveler and 2 interdimensional grafts, Yerks, and Iron Obelisk. Plasterbat, which is Sanctum, Dees, Logos, and has Take Hostages and 2 Potions and 3 ZYX Researchers, Sloppy Lab Work, 2 Igors, Pit Lord, Hecatomb. Or if you would go with Digimoth, which has Sanctum, Shadows, Logos, and Too Much to Protect, 3 Yancey Gangs, Brend, Nerve Blast, Spirit's Way, Anahita, several artifacts, an interdimensional graft, a strange gizmo, Merrick, and Joya. Let me know which of these you would pick. I would love to see how many people went my way, how many people went another way, and then I will come back and walk through how things went and walk through the actual various numeric rating systems views on these decks, and let you know my choice. See you in a few. All right. Well, thanks for voting if you did, and here it is. This is the deck I picked: Digimoth, Guildhall Crook, and I took it to 4-2 at the Vault Tour. Didn't quite make it into day 2. I went with it because it had the most Amber control, and I'll show you the other 2 decks. Of course, I hadn't scanned it, and I didn't manually type it in, so I wasn't going off of any of these sort of stats. You'll notice 2.5 stars, so this is solidly median as far as SAS goes, and 51 Eric is pretty good. You'll notice here the expected Amber on this deck is fairly high. 20 is pretty good expected Amber, and 9 Amber control. Very little artifact control, and not a lot of creature control, like we said. Not a ton of deck manipulation, and not a very high effective creature power. So no key cheats. There were no key cheats in any of these decks, actually. Not a ton of archive or extra draw. There was some of each of those. Now, I want to show you, because this is a little funny to me actually, the other two decks. So Plaster Bat, this is the one I was least likely to take. It has the triple Researcher, which is, I mean, feels good. And by the way, I haven't taken either of these out in Chainbound yet, so I really, either of the two I didn't go with. I really should. And I'll get to it. I think the Pit Lord Hecatomb is pretty cool. There's some cool stuff here. But notice, expected amber is a bit lower. Even though it has more amber pips, it's still lower expected amber. Why is that? Well, because this has a bit of steel, right? So you have things like Brand and Nerve Blast, Too Much to Protect, that are probably going to get quite a bit of amber, even though they don't say it. It's not guaranteed, but probably it'll work out. And I never had a game where I had those and they were dead. Brand, obviously, there's that you have to do something about it, but actually had one game where an opponent I got up to 6 amber, and they dropped a Sting on the board right then, and I was like, oh crap! And I had did I have Strange Gizmo? I think I might have had Strange Gizmo, but I think so. Anyway, they ended up bursting to 12 at that point because I had the Sting, and then I was able to follow that up the next turn with Too Much to Protect. And he was really salty about it. He was like, "Oh, if you hadn't had Too Much to Protect, I would have won." And I was like, "Well, if you hadn't had the Sting, I wouldn't have needed Too Much to Protect." So, I mean, okay, don't be that guy. Yeah, but again, wasn't quite enough. Let's see. So Plaster Bat, higher SAS, 3 stars there. Not as high expected amber, not quite as high arc overall, but a lot more deck manipulation. Much higher deck manipulation. Much higher effective creature power, but lower expected amber and way lower amber control. So I think I made the right call there, even though if you're going by SAS, you would want Plaster Bat, or Buster has 80 SAS. It's 3.5 stars, but again, look at that amber control. It's the lowest out of the 3. It has the 2 interdimensional graft and the Iron Obelisk, and then I guess you get some control of Blood Shark because you make them deal with it before they can do more. Same with the Amber Imps, but and it has great cycling, right? Like good draw. The deck manipulation. Actually, the other one this one actually has higher deck manipulation, because I think with the 2 Igors, you probably do better than the Time Traveler, actually. So, a little better, really good creature control in Buster. I don't feel like that's how I lost, though, so I think I'm still pretty confident I made the right choice, but, of course, I wish I could go back and run through again with each one and see how it would have gone, but you don't get to do that. That's not how life works. But I think I made the right call. Again, interested to see what y'all think. I think these SAS scores are pretty silly, to be honest, and really it's the arc is a little more indicative. Although like this one, Buster and Digimoth have the same arc, and that's an objective measurement. I mean, we're picking what to measure here, but then the values within each of these categories are fairly objective. But with 10 bonus amber on this one, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I made the right call. Anyway, would love to see what you think, and hope you enjoyed. Oh yeah, so in any case, I really should take Buster to Chainbound and see if it does, see how it does. I ended up taking Digimoth to Chainbound, and it went 2-0. I had a buy and went 2-0 outside of that. So. And I don't know, maybe I just caught a bad break that night, but made me feel pretty good about going 4-2. And the other thing, and this is not just to, if you are from my local meta, then this is just to make you feel good. I think my local meta is actually pretty strong, and it's a small, it's not a huge groups. It's went to an event on Saturday, and there were 10 of us there. there was another one on Sunday at a different store, so I think that kind of split us a little bit. But 10 there. I think our last Chainbound event that I went to, there were maybe 8 people, something like that. So not a huge group, but the competition is super duper intense, and I actually think most of us could have a shot at winning a vault tour, if not all of us. So anyway, all that to say, I actually think it's funny that I went 4-2 at the vault tour and then 2-0 at Chainbound. I know that's Archon, so it's a little different, but people were playing with chains, and just didn't get there. So anyway, still fun. This is a fun deck, and I don't know. Not sad to have it to play with. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed the video, and hope to see more people at Vault Tour and local events in the future. Just a great time. And if you're considering going to a Vault Tour, I super highly recommend it. I would just say, if you can possibly make it work, it's a fun time. Even if you are like me and you're a scrub and you just go 4-2, it's still a fantastic time. So hope to see y'all at one of them. I'm not sure if I'm going to make Vegas or not, but hope to see some of y'all at a future Vault Tour event, and get out there and forge some keys. Thanks.